All right, we are live. What is up, everybody? As people start coming in, and we'll wait. We'll wait a second before we start introducing everyone in here because it takes a minute or two for peeps to show up. But let's smoke it
I'm
up.
so glad to be here, though.
You're
Thank
the
you so much
man.
for having me.
You're the man.
Whoop.
Fantasy Joker. For those who don't know, we'll reintroduce you when more people actually show up because this won't be going in. I don't upload these ones. These ones will just stay. You know, if anyone catches it after the fact, they catch it. But we're live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitch, and on Rumble. And so for anyone who comes in here shortly, make sure you guys hop on Rumble. We're at the pre-show right now, but the actual show starts in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're having a tag match right now. I missed who was Sky Blue's partner. I didn't see who that was going to be. It was Statlander and Willow Nightingale. I don't even know who that is.
There you go.
Super exciting pre-show match.
Yeah, that's one thing that we usually don't get too often is like actual decent pre-show matches, at least from what I can remember. So if we get some decent ones.
Yeah. I mean, so WWE will sometimes have a hot pre-show match when they do international crowds is the thing, right? Because international crowds will get there a lot earlier. Like they'll have more than half the stadium filled like an hour before the show easily.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's like, you got people to work with. A pre-show match like AEW and it's stateside, you're probably talking about like there's maybe 100 people in the building right now.
Right.
And the rest of them are still filing in.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty full. Like right now, I mean, there's not a lot of people watching. But I'll get a little sneak peek of how it looks there. So
that's already pretty full up there.
Looks like the crowd's damn near in full attendance. I mean, shit, everything starts in 20 minutes.
That's
like if you're like not there to this pay-per-view and shit starts in 20 minutes, like, are you even a fan at that point? I understand going to the bathroom and getting beers and all that, but like, if you're not in attendance, there's something wrong with you at this point.
Where the hell even are they?
Let's see. They are
Greensboro. So in North Carolina, okay. North Carolina should be a good crowd. And Sting's last match.
Yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Wrestling tonight also, right?
Huh?
Chris Jericho's wrestling tonight also, right?
Yeah. So he's in a weird thing. So that was supposed to be a meat on meat match.
Okay.
They were just going to have 3 big guys wrestle. And then they decided to scrap that. And they've now turned it into, I don't actually understand if there's ladders involved or not, but it's basically they've turned it into their version of Money in the Bank. Because whoever wins the 6-pack challenge now. So it's Chris Jericho, the 3 meatheads, which was Hobbs, Brian Cage, and I'm forgetting the third guy. And then Hook and Dante Martin are the other 2. So it's like whoever wins that match gets a future shot for the AEW heavyweight title held currently by Samoa Joe, who's going to be in the main event against Swerve and Hangman.
Okay.
So it is like there's implications, big implications for this match. I'm curious to see who's going to win. I hope it's not fucking Chris Jericho though. I love Chris Jericho, but he needs to start having those kind of feuds where like he's putting the other guy over.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just so popular compared to everybody right now though. Like, I mean, I know that they have like a bunch of like real popular, players, but man, it's like I guess you need a push from a guy like Chris Jericho to reach that kind of status, right?
Well, it's the way they've done the stories. So this is kind of like the problem, if you want to call it that right now with AEW and the booking and what's going on backstage is it's kind of a combination of there's kind of a lack of overall storytelling. Like even if you look at the card right now. There's fucking like 10 matches on this card, and
Yeah.
I can't tell you the story for half of them.
Yeah.
So we're going in cold for a lot of this. Now they make up for it because they have like exceptional matches.
Yeah.
They do a lot of cool shit that isn't even allowed in WWE anymore.
Yeah.
So like they have this huge opportunity, but it's like they're lacking the storytelling. And then the other problem is coming mainly from Tony Khan, who is like the owner and runs AEW. He's one of these guys, and I did a short on this, and it was in one of my shows. When you have a boss that is relentlessly positive, regardless of the field, it doesn't matter what career you're in, that is so relentlessly positive that they start overlooking mistakes. And even when you're like, hey, here's a mistake that we could be correcting, and they're like, it's okay, you know what I mean? That kind of like relentless positivity, nothing will kill your fucking business faster.
Yeah.
Everybody around Tony Khan right now is like, hey, this is the shits right now. We could fix this. And he's just kind of being a muppet about it and being like, oh, no, everything's fine. He's like the dog in the house on fire meme right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like part of the problem. But they do have like a lot of stars. They have an influx of stars coming in.
Yeah.
Like it's not just Will Ospreay who's going to be on this pay-per-view also. And again, it's like I did a review of an AEW Dynamite Cold, which is like their main show. That's like their version of Raw. Let's say.
Yeah. Is that still on Wednesday nights?
Yeah. So I went and I watched one. It was the one on Valentine's Day.
Shout out to Phil on Rumble. What up, dude?
Yeah, I watched it cold just to kind of get a sense of like, hey, what's going on with AEW right now and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, it was the most random show. I honestly like couldn't make heads or tails of it. My review was like super scattered, and it's because like there's no really like there's no thorough line. Like as soon as you flip on WWE right now, it's like, dude, Bloodline's been going on for years. They've been telling that story for years. Cody Rhodes, they've been telling that story for 2 years now.
Yeah.
It's like, and I thought it was like great the way that he actually didn't win last year and then had to overcome Brock Lesnar as like the mini boss to get back to the big boss where he is now. So it's like, again, long-term booking storytelling rules all in wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think of one of my favorite like storylines ever was it was where they had there were the corporate ministry and there was this higher power who was like calling all these shots, and even the Undertaker bowed down to this higher power, and it seemed like this was like a 5-month build to who this higher power actually was. And it's funny. It's me, Austin. It was me all along. Even my own family didn't know.
I was like watching Lost or fucking Game of Thrones. Like the actual build and everything was awesome. And then when it turned out to just be Vince, you were like, God damn it.
You fucking knew it. I knew it back then. I knew it 5 months ago, and you kept me at the edge of my seat. And they even threw you off the scent because he's in the ring, but they recorded that video of him, and so they have the video playing while he's in the ring, so just totally throwing you off the scent. But yeah, those are the kind of stories that I would bring up 25 years later.
Some of the shit they did back then was so fucking unhinged. The one that people I feel like forget that I'll never forget, the one that made me laugh the most was Vince McMahon and his son Shane in a tag team match against HBK and God.
So ridiculous.
Vince McMahon's like, I'm gonna wrestle with God himself. And the way they had God come down to the ring was the spotlight on the empty stage.
That's so ridiculous.
Dude, that shit cracked me up fucking so hard.
So ridiculous. Shout out to everyone watching. So we don't the pre-show is going on right now, but we're streaming on all platforms. Just reminding everyone, hop over to Rumble because we're gonna have the pay-per-view live streaming over there here in about 12 minutes. So hop over there. There's already more people watching on Rumble right now than everywhere else. So if you're watching on Rumble, throw in the comments so we can shout you out. And shout out to Devo who just joined on Instagram. Hop over to Rumble, Devo. I'm throwing the link in over there on Instagram for you. But yeah, the tag team match is still going.
Yeah, well, that's AEW for you. Is they will have 10 matches and they're all gonna be like decently long matches. And this is a wrestling show. And that's good. There's a place for that, but again, when you just have a bunch of random shit going on with no real story behind it, that's where it can get weird. Like I turned on when I was doing the review, like I mentioned, of the one on Valentine's Day. Dude, the first match was Jeff Hardy versus Jon Moxley in a mock rules match.
Okay.
I had no idea what the hell was going on. I'm like, why is this happening? There's no real story to it. And the story, like as I discern and parse out what's happening, I'm like, oh, this is just happening because Jon Moxley is crazy. He's got his own set of rules. So stupid. That's like some WWE Vince booking.
Yeah.
When he did the fucking asylum match with the steel cage and the stupid weapons hanging down. It was him and Jericho.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets a little bit ridiculous sometimes. I'm curious to see what this is all about. But that was always one of my biggest beefs about WWE for the longest time, you know, especially within the last 10 years. Like the storylines kind of dried up. Maybe in like, I don't know, I'd say 2014, maybe to 2016, 17. That's when I thought the storylines were getting a little bit better, but it was also like Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, you know, like just their storyline of what the hell did they go by back then?
Jericho.
Yeah.
The Festival of Friendship.
There you go. Festival of Friendship. There you go.
Yeah. Dude, the thing is, like, you can do stuff like that where it's kind of goofy and it's fine, but they had like a thorough storyline for like 6 months and they had a clear vision of where they were going with it. They always knew that Kevin Owens was going to betray him at some point and it was going to lead to the WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. You set up like a 6 month story like that and it works, but it's like also being able to pivot away from it when it's bombing out, like is just as important.
Yeah, and like a lot of it really was Chris Jericho, who, I mean, just with him and his contract and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't KO, but no, I mean, but that was like just a perfect example of a storyline that lasted half a year, maybe even more than half a year, and you know, the payoff was just awesome. Like we got to see them be like both champions, and like we got to see a big payoff.
It was great.
Oh, and real quick, hold on, and real quick, we got Dennis in the house, and he said, "Who's your guest, Huss?"
What up? So the Fantasy Joker at Jack Luceny. You can find me on YouTube, on Spotify, on TikTok, on Facebook. But basically, I run a channel with 3 shows. We've got the worst wrestling podcast, the worst fantasy show, and Wildcard Wednesdays. So Alex actually is the only one that's been on all 3 officially now. So worst fantasy show is fantasy football. That's kind of where we dabbled and met on the fantasy football content side, but the wrestling stuff is brand new. I dropped episode 4 today, so go check that out. The Worst Wrestling Podcast. Actually had the preview for this pay-per-view, ironically enough, so it's kind of a perfect segue if you want to quickly just check that out. And Wildcard Wednesdays, I get to interview other content creators, both in fantasy football and other fantasy sports, and even in the wrestling side, and I get to just like have a shoot the shit interview with them. It's a comedy based interview, a lot of like dumb hypotheticals, but really easy peasy comedy channel. So lots going on, but also not a lot going on.
And what would you say? Because I know you talk to a lot of people now, so not even like who's the coolest person, but like what was one of the more, let's just say, super random stories that you've heard from a content creator?
Oh man. Yeah, random. It's funny because it's like actually a lot of the random stories really come from me. So like I literally was just I because I smoke so much weed, I tend to forget sometimes what we talked about on the interview. So I have to watch it back when I'm doing the description of the shows. And I was just watching the one that's dropping this Wednesday back, and I dropped a tweet earlier because I texted my friend, which was like to get validation that this is a real story that happened. Okay. I texted my friend, I was like, hey, you remember when Curtis lost to the kid with no legs? And all she wrote back was, yes, LMFAO. So that story, like I told it on the show, and it was because I just had Josh Larkey on the show. Shout out to him at J Larkey Tweets. He has a really big following over on Twitter, but he did a little bit of amateur wrestling in high school, and I also wrestled in high school. It's actually one of my main sports. And in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is like where I had my formative teen years, every year they would have what was called the Cora Invitational. So all of the schools in the city and surrounding area would basically go compete at like this one big wrestling meet.
Okay.
And so like I'm there, I'm talking to my friend, and this kid slithers by me. And I'm like, I had like a little freak out moment because it's like, you shouldn't react like that, but it's like you weren't expecting it. Because it's like, I'm telling you, this kid with no legs, just on his hands, slithers by me. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And then I realized, oh, shit, he's wearing a singlet. He's competing. He is out here to wrestle, right? So there's a guy on my team. His name is Curtis. He's like this little 100-pound soaking wet, looks like an actual 10-year-old boy. Like, I know you hear that sometimes. Legitimately, I've never seen anyone in high school look like an actual 10-year-old boy. That's what Curtis looked like. He was short, little chubby, bright face. Swear to God, you would every time I saw him, I was like, you belong in elementary school. So Curtis, being as small as he was the only one small enough in the weight category to wrestle the kid with no legs. Because obviously, having no legs makes you weigh a lot less.
Yep, I'd say so.
So Curtis wrestled the kid and got his ass manhandled. He got fucking smoked, my guy. And it wasn't even close for two reasons, okay? So the first reason is that this kid's walking, or like he's literally walking around on his hands all the time, lifting himself up into his wheelchair. He's basically using his arms as legs. So obviously he's fucking tanked.
Yeah, his upper body strength is unmatched, unrivaled.
Exactly. Right? But the second part of it is, to that point, we've spent all of our training learning leg-based attacks.
Right, yeah, you take out the legs,
Double
right?
leg takedown. Double leg takedown. Defend the leg takedown. Like, everything has been leg-based for like the entire fucking 6 months of training leading up to this. And now you're wrestling a kid with no goddamn leg.
They just brought in the secret weapon, the guy who you cannot do any leg maneuvers on.
He kind of like goes in, and the kid just fucking immediately grabs him with a double overhook and kind of like wrestles him down, flips him over, pinned. He got pinned by a kid with no legs. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
And I'm sure in the moment it's embarrassing, but
yo,
it's gotta be.
I would quit. I would just be like, I'm done. Never again will you see me on this mat. Yo, you lost to a kid with no legs.
I mean, I've heard. I mean, I don't know if if anyone who's seen Cat Williams, you know, he talks about you know, about some ultimate haters, you know, just like some of the biggest haters around. And they talk about you know, the hating on the kid who had no legs but was competing in a race. You know,
little Tink Tink.
poor little Tink Tink. And and Fuzzy Bear returns. Is Sting's last match tonight? Yes, it is. We're gonna be streaming the pay-per-view in like 3 minutes. Everything starts. Just hang around. We're just talking right now, just chatting, but we will have the pay-per-view up in a few minutes. So just hang out. And for everyone who's not on Rumble, hop over to Rumble, because once we start streaming the pay-per-view, we're shutting down everywhere else. And poor little Tink Tink. Yeah, they said he won the match, and then they said that he had an unfair advantage. Those some haters, man.
Motherfucking the foot race with no goddamn foots.
Tink 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 Tink.
Is your legs getting tired? Because his legs not getting tired.
And that shit was so funny because I'm pretty sure that that's the one that I saw live. That was on its Pimpin', right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one I actually saw him live in person.
His fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
That is fucking oh damn. Now I'm forgetting, of course I'm forgetting the name of it on the spot. His fucking his prime, his best thing that he ever did, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's super classic. And yeah, I seen that one live. It was fucking awesome. And it was at some symphony hall.
Resistance. That's what I was looking for. Fuck, of course I remember it. Like the second I stopped talking.
Shout out to everyone who just jumped in on Rumble. Pay-per-view starts in a few minutes, so we'll have it up here very shortly. Actually, I think we're coming in right now. So they're doing a big Sting promo. So let me we're gonna shut down everything everywhere else real quick.
You know, I'm thinking I said earlier that Samoa Joe, the triple threat, would be the main event. I actually wouldn't be shook if